Thor Ragnarok is one of my favorite movies, and it's a frequent rewatch for me. And today I'll be talking about it just simply because it's one of my favorites. Hi, I'm Noor, and welcome to Noor's Board. And today, once again, I'll be talking about Thor Ragnarok, right? So, Thor Ragnarok is my favorite for a lot of reasons. It's comedic, and I honestly like what they do with Thor and Loki in this movie. And I like talking about it to anyone who asks me, like, what movie should I watch if I'm like trying to get into Marvel but I don't want something too heavy to watch? Thor Ragnarok. Most of the time it's a perfect answer, but it obviously depends on the person and what they want to watch from Marvel. And this video unfortunately isn't spoiler free, but if you'd like to watch it just so you can get more of a gist of what's going on in the movie and why you should watch it as well, then you should go for it. Just watch my video. So, basically what happens in this movie is that there's a prophecy that needs to be fulfilled, and Thor sees that his purpose is to stop that prophecy from happening. And so he goes and tries to confront Surtur, which is like the entity, sort of like a creature who supposedly starts the whole situation with the Ragnarok thing. And it's basically about the destruction of Asgard. And so he tries to go and stop him and he doesn't succeed. So he goes back to Asgard and tries to look for Odin. And he's like, what the heck, there's been like a lot of stuff happening that are terrible around the Nine Realms, which the Nine Realms could be explained further in Thor 1, which is the first Thor movie, if you'd like to watch that, so you can learn more about the Thor and Loki lore, essentially, then you should. And I honestly recommend that if you're trying to get more into like knowing more about either Thor or Loki. And to be specific, I'm a very huge Loki fan, so if you're also a Loki fan just from watching the edits or whatever, then you should watch Thor as well so you can learn more about either of the characters, right? So he goes and he looks for Odin, and he's like, what's going on in the Nine Realms? I've been having those terrible visions, right? And he's like, oh, I have no idea. And then turns out that Odin, or actually Loki, is disguised as Odin, and that Loki has banished Odin into Earth.
In the vault so it doesn't turn into a giant monster and destroy the whole planet.
Thank you, dear. So it's back to Midgard for you, is it?
Nope. You know, I've been having this reoccurring dream lately. Every night I see Asgard falling to ruins.
That's just a silly dream. Signs of an overactive imagination.
Possibly. But then I decide to go out there and investigate. And what do I find but the Nine Realms completely in chaos? Enemies of Asgard assembling, plotting our demise, all while you, Odin, the protector of those Nine Realms, is sitting here in your bathrobe eating grapes.
Yes, well, it is best to respect our neighbor's freedom.
Yes, of course. The freedom to be massacred.
Yes. Besides, I've been rather busy myself.
Watching theater.
Well, board meetings and Security Council meetings.
You're really gonna make me do it?
Do what?
You know that nothing will stop me up here as it returns to my hand. Not even your face.
You've gone quite mad. You'll be executed for this.
And I'll see you on the other side, brother.
All right, I yield!
Behold! Thor! Odin's son!
You had one job.
Just the one?
Where's Odin?
You just couldn't stay away, could you? Everything was fine without you. Asgard was prospering. You've ruined everything. Ask them. go on.
Where's father? Did you kill him?
You had what you wanted. You had the independence you asked for. Ooh, wow. Okay. I know exactly where he is.
They go to Earth and he's not there. And then they try to look for Doctor Strange becomes an aid in this point on in the movie. And then they go and find Odin in Norway through a portal that Doctor Strange uses to aid them to go to their father in Norway. Odin dies and Hela is free from the magical prison that she was imprisoned in. And Hela is the goddess of death, and she embodies themes like death and destruction, obviously, because she is the goddess of death, right? And she proves her powers by first destroying Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, which is like the way that Thor directs his powers, and at that point on, as he ends up in Sakaar, he's vulnerable without Mjolnir because he doesn't really know how to use his powers without his hammer. And then Thor tries to figure out his way around Sakaar, and he needs to escape obviously so he can get to Asgard and stop Ragnarok and Hela. And when he finds out that Loki has been there for a while, he's like, what the heck, how? Which is crazy because like we do need to have a like sort of like a breakdown on what happens with Loki and Sakaar, to be honest. And then Thor finds out that Hulk is there. He's the Grandmaster's champion, and the Grandmaster is who runs this chaotic place called Sakaar, right? And then Hulk ends up there by getting on the Quinjet on Earth, and he somehow ends up in Sakaar, which is like crazy, to be honest. And then they meet up with Valkyrie, who sort of taunts Thor as he's stuck in Sakaar, and then he figures out a way to convince her that he doesn't figure out a way. One of the ways that he tries to figure out how to convince her to get to there is by telling her that Hela's back, and she's like, okay, we really need to go now. And then they form this team called the Avengers, and it's honestly so cool. And the whole fighting scene afterwards is honestly amazing. The whole part of like the character development here with Thor is that he figures out how to use his powers without Mjolnir. He has this sort of vision right before he figures out how to unlock his powers without the hammer, where he speaks to his father and he's like, are you the god of hammers or are you the god of thunder? And that's sort of what sets it off. And and he then figures out that Ragnarok does have to happen, and that's literally why the prophecy existed. And Asgard gets destroyed, and so that Hela can also get destroyed, and so she could die as well, which is ironic because she's the goddess of death, and she dies. Crazy. Essentially here, my favorite parts of the movie is like the fighting scenes when they're all fighting the villains in Asgard and stuff. And yeah, also another thing that I want to point out here is that the siblings, essentially like Hela, Thor, and Loki, even though they're not vibing with each other, they do all sit on the throne one last time before Asgard gets destroyed. And before you tell me Loki doesn't sit in the throne in this movie, yeah, he doesn't, but he is disguised as Odin. And if you look back at the after credit scene in Thor: The Dark World, he was sitting there, obviously disguised as Odin, and so he does definitely sit on the throne one last time. Hela sits on the throne one last time, as before she fights with Thor, and where she reveals to Thor that Asgard was actually once before, or at least her and Odin were once before a conquering force that were conquering the entirety of the Nine Realms, and how her hunger to to conquer more worlds and realms was way exceeded Odin's want to conquer other places, and so he had to imprison her. And she explained the whole story and how essentially the whole thing was like the whole what was the word? Like the whole put together vibe was actually just an illusion. And I really like that part. It's like a whole political move into that part, and it's what makes the movie more deep and interesting. And then obviously we see Thor sitting on the throne in Thor Ragnarok. So they both do sit on the throne, but Loki isn't really shown in the movie, but he was in Thor: The Dark World in the after credit scene. And yeah, I guess that's my movie review. It's pretty good. Yeah. The movie